Could have been napping. Well, that was a movie. Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I just watched Malcolm and Marie, which was written and directed by Sam Levinson and starring Zendaya and John David Washington. Oh, and so I decided to film this review in black and white because it obviously makes everything that I say and do more classy and profound and artistic, right? Oh, God. So, in case you haven't heard about this film or you don't know what it is, it's about a couple who comes home from their own movie premiere that John David Washington's character is the writer and director for, and then continue to have an argument for the rest of the night. And if that doesn't sound entertaining, then by God, you'd probably be right. I'm torn in a lot of ways about this movie because Sam Levinson obviously showed that he had an idea of how to make a film. He definitely did, at least from a directing standpoint, because there was pretty good direction throughout. There was also very good cinematography, and there was moments of really good acting as well, mainly from John David Washington. Zendaya was never bad, but never great. John David Washington was actually pretty good at some times, which surprised me because I haven't seen him in too many movies, but I mentioned in like my Tenet review that I did a little while ago, he's not a great Class A actor to me, but in this, he was a lot better than he was in Tenet, so that was a step up for him in my opinion. However, Sam Levinson also wrote this movie. He didn't just direct it, he wrote it, and the writing is where most of the flaws show themselves, in that the writing is just bland and boring and just frustrating. I guess I'll get into spoilers. Basically, you've already heard my opinion of it. I don't really particularly like it that much, but it does have some good artistic moments to it. But I am going to get into spoilers because a lot of my issue that is with this story has to do with the plot of this story, because it is just two people talking in a house for about an hour and a half, so, or maybe 2 hours. It's over. It's a long. It's essentially about a couple that is just, just awful people, just not good people. And I watch this and I just feel bad because I'm like, there's people that are gonna watch this and be like, oh, is that what relationships are like? No, it's not. That is not. This is not normal, I promise. This is not what relationships look like, at least not the healthy ones. I feel like when I'm watching it, I just kept thinking of like that meme that like the gay community has where they're like, I'm worried about the straight people. This is what straight people are like? This is what straight relationships are like? I promise, it's not. This is not normal. This is not okay. Both characters are awful, and especially Zendaya's character is literally psychotic. Like, I think this movie was supposed to be a lot like Marriage Story, where it takes two characters, a situation that makes both of them look bad, so you see the bad in both of them, but also the good in both of them. But this didn't work, because in Marriage Story, although it was slightly maybe slanted in one way or the other, both characters came out looking pretty much equal. In this, John David Washington's character came out looking like he was selfish. He would use things against her that were unnecessary. He was a bit manipulative. He was egotistical and just frustrating, and he was just overall more concerned with his desires and his wants and frustrations than hers. Like, he had helped her through a lot, and he did a lot for her that was good for her, but he did hold it against her, like, I've done all this for you, why can't you appreciate me? But Zendaya, on the other hand, came out of this looking like a literal psychopath. Like, this girl, she's like bipolar and depressed, and so it makes sense a little bit why she would act like this, but she accuses him of verbally abusing her. He never does. She verbally abuses him. She's psychotic. She's manipulative. At one point, well, at several points, he's calling her crazy and all these things, psychotic and all of that, and she gets offended by it. So she literally gets out a knife and starts acting crazy just to prove his point. It's like, oh my God. Like, ooh. If the intention of this writer-director was to make both characters look equally bad, which I'm not sure if that was the point or not, I can't tell, you missed on this one, buddy. You missed on this one, Sam. No. Being a bad boyfriend does not equal being a literal psychopath. There's a little different here. And yeah, no, nobody should date him. He's not date material. And I think a big point that Zendaya's character made about him was that he doesn't want to be better. At least she wants to be better. Okay, but you're coming from a lot lower place here. Like, he's not a good person. And so if he plateaus, that's not great. But she would need to become a much, 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 much better person and more sane person to get on that level. God, I just... Okay, so I was caught in the middle on this movie for a while because there was a lot about this movie that I wanted to like. The cinematography was very artistic. I liked the idea. It's a very interesting idea to me. Hold on. I like this movie. I do. In case you don't know what this movie is, it's a Tom Hardy movie where he, in real time, drives from one location to another location that is 90 minutes away. And on the way, different things are happening, and he's on the phone with various people. That's it. You've got, like, one shot of him getting into the car, and then he's in the car for the rest of the movie in real time talking to people on the phone. There's very few actors, there's very few storytellers that could make that entertaining at all, could make that good in any way. And they succeeded with that movie. This movie is similar in the way that you've just got two characters in a house. You never see them anywhere else other than briefly outside of the house in like the yard and stuff. You never see anything else. It's just one set, two actors talk for about 2 hours. And you need really good acting, you need really good writing, and it helps to have good directing and editing as well. And this movie had good cinematography, it had decent directing, and it had pretty good acting, but just the writing did not make this movie worth it. Even though the idea I could have gotten on board with, because I like ideas like this. Like, we're just seeing a real, raw, authentic, that's a big word in the movie, authentic story being shown. You've got two very real acting characters having a fight, which, aside from some painful exposition early on, is very real feeling. You've got very real characters that are having genuine fights and conversations, but you just lose me after a while. After the first 20 minutes, I went, that was a really good short film. Oh no, there's still an hour and a half left, because you've got the first fight come to its conclusion, and then you're like, sigh of relief. That was interesting. I don't know that I would have made that. I don't know that I would want to watch that again. But I saw some merit in that, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And then there's another hour and a half of them getting in and out of fights, almost having sex and not having sex, then fighting, then smoking, then showing each other songs on their phones. And it's just like, this wasn't good. It wasn't. And I wanted to give it a positive rating for a long time because it was artistically well done in a lot of ways. Like, the cinematography, like, that was eye-grabbing. Like, that's the one thing I keep coming back to about this movie, is the cinematography was beautiful. And so I kind of wanted to give it a 6 just for that alone. But the reason that I can't give it a positive rating is that about 15 minutes left in the movie, maybe 10, there was a fake ending, and I got excited and then disappointed when the movie started back up. So I think just that alone won't let me give it anywhere above a 5. I don't know what I'm giving it, but like, it was made worse by the fact that, like, this is supposed to be a character study, because the characters are the only thing in the movie, so you have to be invested in the characters and their story to give a shit about this shit. So if the characters both suck, which they did, then who gives a shit? And so I just kept waiting for the movie to be over, because I just kept going, why are they fighting about this stupid shit? It was so petty and so annoying and I didn't care. I didn't care. It does a pretty good job, for the most part, of trying to, like, make these characters have, like, a flip-flop back and forth where one person's talking and so you're like, yeah, I'm on their side, and then the other person starts talking and then you're like, yeah, I'm on their side, and it goes back and forth. But as the movie goes on and on, you just start leaning more and more toward Washington's side, because his explanations for her issues with him make so much more sense than her explanations for what that she said about him. I don't know. English is hard. I could have been napping. My point being, she'll be like, ah man, you stole that script. That script was about me. You wrote that about me, and then you didn't give me any credit. And then he goes, no, I wrote it about this person. I wrote it about that person. And I wrote about this person. And I wrote about that person. This part was about you, but it's not all about you. You're an egomaniac. And then she goes, why would you have to say those mean things about me? You're just mean, and that makes you an egomaniac. And then you're like, well, that wasn't a really good argument. At one point, she even says, you're better at fighting and debating than I am, and he certainly was. He brings up specific situations. Like, he's like, this scene was based off of when I had sex with this girl in this hotel. I even have a picture of it. This scene was based on how this girl walks that I used to date. Blah, blah, blah. And then she complains that he didn't just explain to her that, no, it wasn't about her. He had to go into vivid, explicit detail. I'm like, bitch, you asked for it, and you didn't listen when he said it the first time, and now you're complaining and calling him verbally abusive, and just get the hell out of here. She takes very personal attacks at him, willy-nilly, and then gets really butthurt when he tries to do it back to her, and then spends the rest of the movie blaming him for doing that, and she plays the victim throughout the whole thing. And in some ways she is, because he does say some very hurtful, unnecessary things. She does way more of it, and I get it. I have probably a slight bias because I am a guy, so I think, generally speaking, I have a unsaid bias, like a subconscious bias toward the guy to take his side, and even if I didn't, I understand the guy in these situations more because I am a guy. We think more similarly. But like I said, I watched Marriage Story, and I came out of that going like, yeah, pretty much 50-50. This is not 50-50. This is like 90-10. And we're trying to be like, huh, man, there's a fine line between love and hate. No, that's a toxic relationship is what it is. Get the hell out. Leave, both of you. And it's frustrating when there's like certain aspects of this plot that were so much more interesting yet detached from the main point of this movie. And I guess there was some ties in, but it really did feel like a separate thing. So like I said, John David Washington's character is a writer-director for this movie. It gets this review from this critic who basically says everything that he expected her to say. It's this very like political, anti-racist article, and he gets pissed off about it because of the anti-racism. He's like, why do you have to review me as a black writer-director? Why can't you just review it? Or why do you even have to review it as me being a man directing it? Why can't you just review it as art? And that was a very interesting conversation. I actually really enjoyed that because anti-racism is one of the most annoying things in today's culture. I hate it. And because it's just racism, it's just with a bow on it. Like the whole like thing from Get Out with like, I would have voted Obama 3 times. It's just like, that's the kind of stuff that he's talking about and is pissed off about. And so I was really invested in that. I enjoyed that conversation that came up like once or twice. And then they would switch quickly back to them arguing about the stupid relationship shit. And I stopped caring again because, like I said, this is an interesting idea, but you have to care. You have to care to be invested at all because all there is in the movie is the 2 characters. That's it. This was a very low-budget movie. It was $2.5 million, which I just reviewed Ace Ventura Jr. Pet Detective. That movie was $7 million. This movie was cheaper than that, and that came out in 2009. And that movie's garbage. This wasn't garbage, but it wasn't good. I don't know. I'm ranting at this point. I just... This will be the cover photo. Just me. Yep. Cap that. Put a poster there. Also, he said Citizen Kane was good, and she didn't like Citizen Kane. She said nobody cares about it. So, I think he's right. I don't know. Like I said, there's definitely part of me that will just agree with him because I related more to his character than her character. Which is funny because, honestly, I've been her character in relationships in the past when I was younger. I was the more dependent one. I was the needier one. I was the less mentally stable one in relationships when I was younger. So I do have a place where I'm coming from that I can understand her character, but I just despised her character. And I didn't like his character, but at least his character in this situation came across as being right. That's all I can say. I don't know. This movie wasn't great. Okay, we're done. I don't know. Oh, What am I supposed to say? It wasn't good. Just, ugh, ugh. Sometimes it's just hard. What am I supposed to say about it? It wasn't good. How am I supposed to review something that's just bad? You say it's bad, and then you just it wasn't memorably bad. It was really forgettable. It was bad.